Hello boys and girls and welcome back to DML. So, you may have already heard about this yesterday, but for those of you that haven't, the mentoring system in DML is being removed from the game. So, obviously we still have access to it right now, you can see that it's working just as it was before, but the entire mentoring system is going to be removed from DML. And so we do have a post talking about this, how, you know, they wanted to implement it and they thought it'd be a good idea, but wasn't really working how they intended. And I have to say, the mentoring thing, it seemed like it did have good intentions, but it just never really worked out in the way that we were hoping. So the post itself is here, and essentially the gist of it is that it didn't work out. And so they've decided to turn it off in an update that is planned to be released at the end of January. So, if you do still like the mentoring system or you're still going for the Professor Dragon, you can keep trying to get him until the end of January. So they have given us quite a decent amount of notice on this, so, you know, thank you for that. A thing that I complain about a lot is things just suddenly happening, so I'm glad that we get a little bit of a forewarning about this closure happening. So, they say, we truly believe that you've been amazing mentors and apprentices. I would beg to differ with some of my apprentices. Cough, cough, the guy here that hasn't logged in for 17 days. But anyway, so, they say, what happens if you couldn't have enough apprentices to get the Mentor Dragon yet? Because obviously, you'd be like, but isn't the Mentor Dragon, if this gets removed, isn't he going to become impossible to get and then become a super rare dragon? No, not quite. So, there's no need to panic, you still have time till the end of January. Also, every mentor who had at least one graduated apprentice receives the Professor Dragon once the system is turned off. So, even if you only have one apprentice that graduated, you actually get to get the dragon. So, that's like a freebie, basically. And so, what about the players who joined DML after January 2019? The Professor Dragon will become a permanently breedable dragon. So, I guess we're gonna get more dragons in this this shop, which means that all the dragons of the week are gonna slowly but surely get harder and harder to breed. And, you know, even though that's slightly annoying, I do kind of like it. I did like all of the new dragons that were brought out and everything like that. So, the question is, with this mentoring system, obviously I complained about it a lot of other people complained about it a lot, and it's getting removed anyway, regardless of what happens, but my question here is, was it really the mentoring system itself that was at fault, or was it everything else in the game that caused this mentoring system to seem a lot worse than it was? Because let's be honest, they made tons of different changes to the mentoring system. They changed the age requirements, where you had to be, what was it, 16 years or older to even use the chat functions. And then people from all different countries were just all using the English language flag, and then you couldn't even speak to them. So there were a lot of problems with how the system worked, but does it really need to be removed? Or could there have been tweaks that happened to it to make it actually a good system that everyone enjoys? I mean, to be honest, I think it's quite difficult when the player base for DML, a grand portion of the player base, are people that are below 16, because there are a lot of children that play this game. So a lot of them were sort of cut out of the global chat and the mentoring system from the get-go. So it was sometimes difficult to find enough players. They did eventually change that. So I get that they tried to make it work, but one of the major problems with the mentoring system in particular was the fact that the chat never actually worked. I mean, it's the same with the global chat, tons of bugs, tons of problems, people spewing out personal info, whereas the mentor chat had the opposite sort of problem, where nobody could even speak to each other, because you'd try and chat to your apprentice, and then the message wouldn't send. Or it'd say that it had sent, and it wouldn't. And then they'd try and get in contact with you, their message wouldn't get sent back to you. So that's why I'm thinking, is it really the problem with the mentoring system itself, or is it actually a problem with just in general how a lot of the other game functions. If your chat is broken, just do not implement chat features in the game. The clan chat still doesn't work properly. To this day, it is still buggy as hell. Everything gets censored that shouldn't get censored. So that was a big enough problem on its own. And then I think they also misjudged that the fact that if players were going to leave DML anyway, having a mentor there is not actually going to increase player retention. And I don't think that's because of the mentors or the apprentices doing anything wrong. That's to do with the way that they've created the game itself. And what's an example of that, you might ask? Like, what do I actually mean by players leaving because of the way that the game is built? The people might pick up DML, think it's a cute collection game, and then realise that everything in the bloody world costs £100 or more because everything's like thousands and thousands of gems. Or players that are playing, for example, they see that we're getting repeated events that have very little effort put into them, and players just sort of get bored of that and they start leaving. I'm not saying that brand new players that are like level 15, for example, would notice that, but they get the gist quickly. As in, it doesn't take a lot of thought to, you know, look at DML and go, oh, so it's like all of the other dragon breeding games out there. Well, maybe this wasn't really the game for me. You know, it was a good way to, you know, jump in and waste a couple of days, but a lot of people get bored of that very quickly. So I get that their intention was to try and keep players in the game, essentially, and, you know, give them someone there to, you know, help them along in the early parts of their journey so they wouldn't want to leave, but that's not because they would have stayed anyway, because they wouldn't have. So I think the main thing I'm trying to say here is that Gameloft need to realise that the reason players are leaving the game is not because of, I don't know, lack of communication between an apprentice and their mentor, or it's not because they don't understand the game. That's not why people leave. The reason people leave this game is because there's already a stigma attached to a lot of mobile games for many reasons. And unfortunately for DML, it does tick a lot of the, you know, pay-to-win mobile gaming tick boxes. And so games like this just, they don't stick with people for very long. Some people they stick with for years, but a grand portion of the people that play games like this, they get bored super quickly. As soon as you get timer-based waiting games, people just go, yeah, I don't want to have to wait 13 hours for an epic to hatch, amazingly enough. So, I don't know what else they're gonna want to do about fixing that problem, if anything. You know, they brought out new breedables recently. They made the stuff like the academy a lot nicer to players, so maybe things like that, they're thinking that, you know, if they remove the amount of time that players are actually waiting in the game, maybe that will keep them playing. And I think that is true. I think that is a good way to go about it. But again, just removing entire game features because it didn't work out. Like, be honest, the mentoring system wasn't hurting anyone. Like, if they remove it, nobody gains or loses anything, really. I guess you could say that they lose the potential to recruit people to their clan, but the mentoring system was mostly just like an extra part of the game that didn't have any impact on anything else. So, that's why I'm sort of confused as to why the decision to just fully remove it came out. Like, why was the mentoring system deemed such a failure to the point where they had to remove it, and yet other things in the game are not? If you get what I'm trying to say, like, I don't know, the old-style castle events, which is, like, unanimously agreed upon that they're pretty trash because they're RNG reliant. Why haven't they been removed? And yet this mentoring system that has no negative effect on people and doesn't affect their dragon collection, really, that is being removed. Personally, I just find the decision sort of strange and out of the blue. And I think they should take this as a time to really reflect on the real problems of the game, rather than removing something that, to be honest, had no detrimental effect on the players themselves. Like, maybe there's something internal. Maybe it was ruining their servers or something. I don't know. I'm just thinking of ideas as to why they would personally want it removed. Maybe they were seeing too much toxicity, although personally I saw, like, no toxicity at all. Everyone was, well, when they could actually talk, were, I don't know, either confused or didn't really say much. I don't know, that's my take on it anyway. I'm not sure what you think, let me know. I'm just hoping that in the future we can fix some of the major issues that made the mentor program fail, rather than just saying, yeah, the mentor program's bad, get rid of it. Because it wasn't the mentor program itself that was the actual issue, I don't believe. And I've seen a couple of other people with the same sentiments on the forums, and, you know, just messaging in Discord servers and whatnot, but, you know, the decision's been made, it is getting removed. There's no point in saying, what if it isn't removed? Because it's being removed regardless. So that is something that we have to accept, and, you know, everyone's gonna get the chance to breed the professor, so I'm sure the people that couldn't really make the mentor system work, at least they can be happy that they got this guy, right? But, you know, for now, that is everything I wanted to talk about for now. I will go through some of our actual event progress in the next video, just so that you know. So, there will be another video coming soon. I just really wanted to address that this feature is being removed, which is something I don't think we've really ever seen in DML before. It's very, very rare for them to just outright remove an entire portion of the game, which, to be honest, hasn't even been there for very long. So, oh well, that is everything that I want to talk about for now. So, let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I will see you then.